He was just a janitor mopping the marble floors of a billionaire's skyscraper, quiet, invisible, ignored by everyone. But when he spoke a few words in Mandarin that day, the entire boardroom froze, and the billionaire himself dropped his pen, whispering in shock, "How do you know that name?" If you're watching this, stay till the end, because this story will remind you that no job is small, no man is ordinary, and life can turn in a moment. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that touch the heart. Every morning at 4:30 a.m., David Chen, a single dad, walked through the back entrance of the Skyrise Corporation Tower, mop, bucket, and an old photograph in his pocket. He was the man no one noticed. The night shift guards would nod half asleep, the receptionists ignored his greetings, and the executives often passed him like air. But David didn't care much about being seen. All he cared about was his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, who was sleeping at home with her oxygen mask and a stuffed panda by her side. Her lungs were weak, the doctors called it congenital fibrosis. David called it his reason to never give up. His day started with silence and soap water. The kind of silence that echoed between glass walls and empty offices before dawn. Yet behind those tired eyes was a man who once wore a military badge, a translator for international peace missions, fluent in 5 languages, including Mandarin. But life had stripped him of everything, his medals, his career, his wife, until only the mop remained. That morning, he was cleaning outside the boardroom where Skyrise's billionaire CEO, Richard Zhao, was hosting an international investment meeting. The conference was crucial, a merger with a Chinese conglomerate that could decide the company's future. Translators, investors, assistants, all were there. David, as always, moved quietly in the corner. But suddenly, tension erupted inside. The translator fumbled. Words were misinterpreted. The Chinese investors' faces darkened. Millions were slipping away because a single sentence had been mistranslated, one phrase that carried deep cultural meaning. Richard Zhao slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "This deal is falling apart." Then, from the corner of the room, came a calm, steady voice, soft but precise. "Ta bu shi zai ji yi ni, ta shi zai biao shi zun zhang." He's not questioning you. He's showing you respect. Every head turned. David stood there, mop in hand, eyes lowered. The billionaire froze. "Repeat that," Richard demanded. David looked up and repeated the full sentence, flawlessly explaining the nuance of the phrase, the cultural respect embedded in tone, the honor behind the investor's choice of words. The investors nodded immediately, relief washing over their faces. Within minutes, the meeting turned around. The tension dissolved. The deal was saved. When the room emptied, Richard approached him. "Where did you learn that Mandarin?" David smiled faintly. "Long time ago, before life had other plans." Richard studied him for a moment. "You saved a deal worth billions. What are you doing mopping floors?" David shrugged. "Feeding my daughter." Those words hit harder than anything. Later that day, as the sun began to set and David prepared to clock out, a black limousine stopped outside the janitor's exit. Richard Zhao stepped out, holding a file. "Get in," he said. David hesitated. "Sir, I still have to finish." "I said, get in." The ride was silent. Richard handed him a document, a full scholarship and healthcare sponsorship for Lily, and a job offer as a language consultant for Skyrise International. "I looked you up," Richard said quietly. "You were one of the youngest military linguists in your division. You don't belong behind a mop, David. You belong where people can hear you." Tears filled David's eyes as he clutched the papers. "You don't know what this means to me." Richard smiled faintly. "Actually, I do. My father was a janitor once. In Beijing. He taught me Mandarin the same way you spoke it today. That's why, when you said that phrase, I froze." For the first time in years, David felt seen, not as a cleaner, but as a man of worth. Months passed. Lily's health improved with proper care, and David's quiet confidence bloomed again. He became Skyrise's cultural bridge, helping build partnerships across Asia. People who once ignored him now stood to greet him when he walked by. But David never stopped carrying his mop. He kept it in his office, a reminder of where he came from, and how humility never goes out of style. When the company held its next annual meeting, David stood beside Richard on stage. Cameras flashed, and thousands applauded as Richard introduced him. "This man taught me that greatness doesn't wear a suit, Sometimes, it carries a bucket. The crowd rose in a standing ovation. And somewhere backstage, little Lily clapped with tears in her eyes, whispering, "That's my dad."